year 2021 is gradually winding down, and for the aviation sector, the past 1 year has been a continuation of recovery process from the direct impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. But as had become increasingly evident, that recovery process had kept on huffing and puffing globally, and even more so here in Nigeria, where the sector was practically on life support before the advent of COVID-19. Well, joining us now to cast an educated eye on the accomplishments and missed opportunities in the global aviation industry in the past 1 year is Baba Yusuf, a former Chief Executive Officer at Nigerian Aviation Handling Company and now CEO, Global Investment Company. Welcome to the program. Let me get right into it by asking for your initial...
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you indeed. Let me ask your initial assessment regarding the aviation sector in 2021.
Well, thank you for having me. The progression has been good compared to last year. We had almost 7 months lockdown, global lockdown. And of course, even though the aviation sector was the critical platform for movement of goods and services, especially the critical interventions to, fight against COVID, the numbers for 2021 look good with the gradual resumption of international and domestic flights. According to the passenger travel statistics from Federal Airport Authority, January to June this year recorded over 125,000 kilograms of cargo compared to about 67,000 kilograms of cargo for last year. That's in the case of cargo, But in the case of passenger, we have recorded so far in Nigeria about over 6 million passenger in and out compared to over 4 million last year. So these indicators show clearly that there is a positive progression in terms of passenger and cargo movement, which of course impact on the bottom line as well and the critical services.
Mr. Yusuf, with the introduction of the new variant of COVID-19, Omicron, we saw a rash wave of travel bans and travel restrictions. We're wondering how the aviation sector seeks to anticipate, because obviously there will be more variants and it seems like the virus is not going anywhere. How will the aviation industry manage to maneuver?
I always lean on the fact that one of the characteristics of living things is adaptability. Aviation sector is a very, resilient sector, as we could see even during the COVID. That was the critical platform, like I said, for supporting the fight against COVID. It will remain the same. Like you rightly said, COVID is here for some time, and I believe we have been anticipating the waves. How they come is how they will come is what we may not know. Now we have the Omicron virus. We could see the bans, but you could also see some backtracking with regard to some of these bans. So as the challenges are coming, counter maneuvers and countermeasures are put in place to adapt. And I guess that is how it is going to be for the next couple of years. But importantly, in anticipation of that, all the protocols and how they are adhered to will be critical to, maintaining and safeguarding the integrity of the platform as aviation globally and in terms of domestic travel.
All right, then, let me get you to hold on. We'll continue this conversation after this quick break. We need to go for a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Baba Yusuf, a former Chief Executive Officer at the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsday. Still with us is Baba Yusuf, a former Chief Executive Officer at the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company and also CEO, Global Investment Company. It's good that you're still with us. Let me ask you my next question, because earlier on before the break, you talked about the pluses, the successes of the aviation industry. You talked about the 6 million passengers and also talked about the kilograms of cargo last year as well. But let's talk about the missed opportunities in the global aviation industry. What would you say those are?
Well, the missed opportunities are the fact that COVID was not expected as at the time it came, so it was not anticipated. And to that extent, we were all globally not prepared for what came onto us first quarter of 2020. And of course, that includes aviation. Aviation is a highly operational sector. And to that extent, because it was unexpected, there wasn't much that could be done in anticipating and preparing to seize the opportunity in terms of, opportunities in business opportunities or economic opportunities globally, and also, in terms of the domestic perspectives. But be that as it may, we could still, even though it was a missed opportunity, we could still see some progression. For example, in the case of China, how they were able to quickly, adapt and have a turnaround, with regards to managing the COVID and managing the interventions. So in terms of missed opportunities, both tangible and intangible values it's going to be very difficult to quantify because it wasn't anticipated. And of course, the tourism sector, agricultural sector, hospitality, all were heavily impacted by the COVID. And to that extent, these were huge revenue losses and business opportunities for aviation, which is actually critical to the success of the other sectors.
And speaking of adaptability, we know fuel prices are high. The situation for the average Nigerian is a bit hairy in terms of our economy. Even globally, things are a bit rough. And we know that the aviation fuel prices are what drive up the cost of tickets. I'm wondering if you have any solutions for keeping prices affordable for Nigerians, especially since with insecurity, it seems more individuals are taking to air travel rather than trusting the roads.
Well, the truth of the matter is, in the case of the aviation fuel, as you know, is driven by market forces. It's a highly privatized entity, so it's completely driven by market forces. There's little or nothing that can be done by government in trying to provide that intervention. But efficiencies in terms of processes, automation, for the airlines and for operators may help, manage the situation as the case may be. You also know that globally there's inflation, and especially in the case of Nigeria, which is also a factor that drives the prices of aviation fuel and any other price for that matter. So it's a reality we'll have to face. For the airlines, they have been trying as much as possible to see how they can save some of the numbers that are lost, with the procurement of the aviation fuel, maybe in terms of process efficiencies or operational efficiencies. But to be honest, this is a situation that will be for the next probably 1 year, because if you look at the numbers from the International Air Transport Association, IATA, 2022, they projected the airlines would post over $11 million loss, as against over $52 million loss for this year. So it's, for 2020, which indicates a progression from what happened in 2020. But aviation fuel being a key cost driver for the airlines is not the only key cost driver, by the way, but it's a heavy key cost driver. We just have to find a way to manage it as the case may be in Nigeria.
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned 2022, because I was going to ask about your outlook regarding what your projections may be. You talked about the $11 million loss, but other than that, what other outlooks do you have in mind regarding 2022?
In my own opinion, there will be more progression from this year's numbers in terms of revenue, in terms of air travel and operational efficiency, because as we can see, even though Omicron has come and there was a little bit of panic, if you call that, when it was announced, you can see how quickly globally we're able to adapt. We will continue to do so. We don't expect a total lockdown, by the grace of God, like last year. And the sector, as aviation, is anticipating worst case and best case scenarios. And so we don't anticipate a drawback, but a progression and air travel, like we saw the numbers we mentioned earlier for the domestic market in Nigeria. Even with the Omicron virus, you still see numbers, going higher for the end of the year. For example, for the Dubai Expo 2020 have recorded over 7 million, visitors. Well, of course, about 90% of them, went into Dubai by air. So that indicates, potentially what will happen in 2022 with or without the next variant of COVID that may come on board.
Thank you very much for joining the program and having this discussion with us, Mr. Oji.